I have a problem with people who don't know the difference between culture, ethnicity, and race. So, I'm going to do my best to clarify the three. Not only will I clarify the three, I'll give you examples in which situations so you could better predict so you could better guide your conversations when we talk about race relationships and like personality triggered by race or culture. Race is the most elementary part of identifying who you are by skin tone. What does that mean? Elementary, meaning basics, meaning white, black, pretty much it comes down to that. Now, because race is a huge deal in America, we have to then separate a little bit further, not just black or white. We gotta give it other like distinctive attributes, like specific hairs and eyes and looks. So that's when you come up with things like Asian, Spanish, Irish, maybe, if you want to consider Irish a race. So black, white, Spanish, Asian, that's about it. Now, culture is the personality or the way of life, worldview that you have that pertains to like a group of people, kind of monolithic in their worldview. That's what culture is. Now, last one is ethnicity. Ethnicity is your origin. Origin as in, ancestral path. These three things are important because I have discussions with people all the time and they keep mixing race with ethnicity and it pisses me off. Or they'll merge race with ethnicity and culture and it pisses me off. Or they'll merge culture with race and it pisses me off. Prime example, they say you act black. You can't act black. That's stupid. It's stupid to think that because a very small portion of a stereotype is how every black person behaves. For example, if I'm African and I've never been to America and you didn't know that and I just finally arrived, it would be stupid to think I understand what you mean when you say I act black, because from your own perspective, only black is America, and that could get you in a lot of trouble. And I see this happen a lot of times in just in conversations in general. People don't know to differentiate the race from the culture and from the ethnicity. Now, why that's important? Because we live in a country still where there's a lot of race tensions and pretty much what ends up happening is when people try to defend or push a certain kind of agenda, they need to be very poignant at the label they choose to use. Now, unfortunately, because a lot of people are not educated in the fact of different race, culture, and ethnicity, they tend to just make stupid mistakes in their description, and it bothers me. For example, Mariah Carey, you guys are going to hate me for this, is white. Ethnically, she has some black in her, obviously. Culturally, I don't know. She's more American than she is anything else. She can't say she's like, black American or white American. She's just American, which is, the more you travel, the more you understand that there's certain like just common American personalities and behaviors that you have that does not necessarily limit you to a specific like subculture like black or white. Different example. Now, let me say something like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is black, was black. But when he died white. What does that mean? Remember what I said? The primary definition of race, skin tone. Skin freaking tone. If I didn't know who Michael Jackson was and he robbed a bank, and you asked me to describe who just robbed the bank, not the old Michael, the new Michael Jackson. I said some white guy with a pretty, nice hair or whatever. I almost said nice hair, greasy. I don't know. Michael Jackson just pretty to me altogether. No homo, but he's a handsome guy. But I would say guy with a hair robbed it, that could dance with awesome, dance moves, robbed the bank. I would say white though. I wouldn't say, he's black, because that would be stupid. That would be a false description. Only reason why people would say black is you assume that people knew his point of origin prior to, which is not always the case. Now, why that's important is people make statements like, and just in news all in general, and it's like, oh no, you know, I'm black, oh no, I'm white, and I'm like, no, maybe you're culturally black, whatever that means. I'm not gonna go into that. Or maybe you're culturally white, but racially you're specifically something. Let's break it down for the people who don't know. Now, the reason why that's important is there is some white people who you consider black or act black, right? They're like more black or more cultured in whatever that blackness is. Granted, I'm using quotation marks because that's not even distinctive of a statement to say, but you get what I'm trying to say. And racially, they're white. Culturally, they're black. Ethnically, they're white. Now, it gets weird and messy because here's an interesting thing that most of you guys don't get to run into, but if you're African or you've been around, you get to run into this. You run into a white African. And for me, I'm an African, right? So it's a very interesting thing because when you run into a white African, you have to be very clear. You have to not be very aware of your like label blunders that you make. You can't just say, you can't be reckless with the labels that you just throw people and tell you're white, you're black. Because what you understand when you meet a white African is he's African as fuck. He feels more at home with me than most black people I know. Like in America, you know, and I mean, like, he feels close. Like I feel like I was same like mother, like that close. Culturally, he's African. You know what I mean? And that's very, you gotta understand that. Culturally, he's African. Racially, he's still white. Ethnically, he might be mixed. He might have some black in him, whatever, because of, you know, how long they've been there, whatever. But you gotta understand, those things happen. The reason why this is important, I want everybody to gather, like, understand all this, so that when we're discussing, when you just say things, you're more aware of the labels you use, because it paints a whole different picture when you mislabel a situation that should not be mislabeled. You know what I mean? You know, like I know, like, just growing up, like, people say, oh, you know, sorry, I won't use that example. I'll say act white. There's no such thing. You can't act white. But I get what they're trying to say, which is people could find offensive one way or the other, which is true. Culturally, you can't call somebody, say to act a specific culture, because that is in itself is very, very, very diverse. And I know that's a narrow rabbit hole, so I'm not even going to jump in there. But I just want to clarify. There's a difference between race, culture, and ethnicity. People, guys, you need to understand the three. They're very important. Like, Chris Brown is black. He barely made it. I know it sounds silly because he's like, obviously he's black because he's light skinned. I mean, because he's, you know, culturally black, his skin black. But those are, you know what I mean, like, for an African, if I've never seen, like, for an African, oh, he's black. Yeah, he's convincingly black, sorry. But when you get a little lighter than that, it's not that convincing. Like Drake is not considered black. The reason why we consider him black because obviously he's ethnically black. So yeah, it has a black dad. Yes, I give you that. He has a black dad. And oh yeah, you know, black dad, white mom, culturally black. He has a lot of the stereotypical, whatever that means. And I hate that word terminology, black, because you act black. But we get what he's trying to say. Culturally, he embodies that, you know, that distinctive, I guess, swag, if you want to call it that. So yes, but to be honest with you, he's not racially really black. And the best way I can explain this to people is you gotta understand where race came from. Race came from a time where, like, if you were a certain color, it determines your whole livelihood. And that's very important to understand, because if you really understand that, then you understand that, oh, it's not what you think about it now. Like, it's not what you think about race now. It's what race was when it was introduced. Because back in the day, you were not separated by your race. You were more separated by your belief system, your country, your culture. You're actually more separate more of your culture than you ever was by your race. And it's still the same case here now. Like now, if you see a lot of Indians, they'll separate themselves based on culture. Like, you need to understand that. And I just find it interesting that we don't understand that this is more, is way more intricate than just, oh, I think he's black, so he's black. Because I run into white girls, I'm like, you're white. No, I'm not. I'm not white. I'm Italian. You're white. You know what I mean? Like, white is a race, not ethnicity. Is a race, not an ethnicity. You know, for example, you guys everybody ran into a lot of dark-skinned Indians. I mean, I would consider them black because they're dark. Their race is black. Ethnically, they're Indians. Culturally, they're Indians. But if you want to separate them racially, black. Even though they have like really like, you know, light hair, and then features are not like the average African. But if we're just going on race alone, you know, half of them will be considered black because of the skin tone margin. And that's really where you gotta understand. And the reason why I'm tallying that is like, you know, people was like, Mariah Carey is white, Mariah Carey is black, Mariah Carey is black. I'm like, if we were in a slavery time where it really mattered to be black, where it really, really mattered, Mariah Carey can dodge that bullet. I'm just telling you, she can dodge it, and a few other people could dodge it. And I know it sucks because I don't want to sound insensitive, because I know a lot of mixed people, like, they get really like hurt about stuff like that. But for me, it's important to understand the difference, the distinctive difference at that, because I know what I am. Like, I am dark. I couldn't pretend to be white, even if I wanted to. Like, I would love to in some cases. I know growing up, who has served me well actually, but I couldn't. And that's one thing I want to say, people who are mixed need to understand. There's a whole different level when you cannot fake your ethnicity. Oh, sorry, you can't fake your race. You know, and this goes into the Spanish realm too. A lot of Spanish people say, like, oh, I understand the struggle because I'm Spanish, I'm colored. You understand the struggle a little bit. Like, if you're not dark Spanish, you don't really understand that struggle. You think you do, I get it. You understand the cultural struggles, which is, yes, you're, you know, people will call you Mexican and have this bad stigmas, which sucks. I get that, and you deal with that. That is 100% true. I totally understand that. You understand the cultural struggles, but that's not the full thing. That's not, you're considered more marketable, you're considered a lot of things. In fact, most of the times, people won't even know you're Spanish until you have an accent or something like that. Prime example, George Zimmerman is a prime example of a Spanish guy who everybody thinks is white. There's so many other Spanish people in Hollywood that people just associate to be white because there's nothing to point them to their Spanishness. You know, and that's why it's important. That's why you need to understand race. So I always tell a lot of Spanish people, you're white. Whether you don't believe it or not, just because your culture speaks more than your race doesn't mean that you're not white. Trust me, like, you're white, and I feel like that's a very distinctive understanding that we need to have. Man, this video has gone longer than I thought. So hopefully I help you guys understand the differences. I'm pretty sure there's other videos who did a better job than I did, but I just thought I'd make a video to just discuss that. Ethnically, racially, and culturally are three different things. You need to understand that, because, for example, racially, I'm black, like pure breed, like African. Racially, I'm black. Some cultures are more accepted in society than others. So that's why these three distinctions is really important. Because, for example, I'll use Lupita Nyong'o. You guys know who that is, from Black Panther. Racially, black. Ethnically, African. Culturally, probably like Christian. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean with the culture is more defining than it's more defining of who you are than your race and ethnicity. And it comes like that in a lot of ways. So I want everybody to just be aware of these three things. If you're aware of these three things, it will help you better understand people better. You know, luckily for me, I interact with so many people. I've seen so many kind of people, and making those distinctions helps me, one, not be too judgmental, and one, be open to learning new things about people in general. So hopefully this video helped you guys understand the difference between race, culture, and ethnicity. Now, like I said before, all of these three things play a key role into who you are, how people perceive you, and what you may or can or cannot do regularly. You know what I mean? Anyway, and as for who I am no one. I'm just a voice in the crowd. Thank you.